Welcome back to my channel. So we have Dixon White, that's his TikTok name, explaining to some white folks why black people owned slaves. So let's get into this video. I will leave my own thoughts at the end of this video.
A white man told me today that black people own slaves too. Did you know that, fat boy? That black people, freed blacks, own slaves in America. Ah, yes. The never-ending saga of projecting our racism back onto black people. Number one, yes, there were a very few freed black people in America that owned slaves, primarily so they could get their families back together. Slavery has always been around, Dixon. Yes, it has. But however, chattel slavery was much different. Before the Atlantic slave trade, when the white man created chattel slavery, he also created the dehumanization of people who were not white. That's part of white supremacy, that dehumanization. And that's the thing that the Europeans created for the Atlantic slave trade to work. And that's the sickness and the disease that we're still all of us suffering from today. Slavery in every civilization throughout history has always been around. Egypt, Africa, Rome, Greece, the Vikings, Europe. But there's one thing that the white Europeans did that had never ever happened in the history of slavery for thousands of years. About 500 years ago in Portugal, the Pope made a declaration that anybody that was not white could be subjugated into slavery and justified legally. And that is exactly what they set out to do. For several reasons. Number one, they were colonizing the world, and indigenous people were dying because of disease, and the indigenous people they had left were converting to Christianity. And that was a problem because they were using religion to justify slavery. They couldn't use religion anymore because people were being converted to Christianity. So they had to have something new. And there were a whole bunch of Africans over there that they thought that they could subjugate. And it turns out they did. But in order to make it work, they created racism and a culture and a system of white supremacy. And they used that to justify the biggest slave trade the world has ever seen. Millions and millions and millions of Africans were enslaved. Their brothers and sisters were enslaved and brought to the Americas and all over the world, the Caribbean, to use for labor. And they were exploited, they were raped, and they could not, unlike other slavery, this is chattel slavery, they could never get their freedom, and their kids could never have freedom. They were property, they were a commodity. In the past, before Portugal and this Pope and the Atlantic slave trade, in the past, a lot of the slavery all throughout history was because of prisoners of war, or because of debt, or because they're criminal. But it was never based on race, it was never based on white supremacy, and many of them could earn their freedom or earn by paying for the freedom. Things are different now. And so I just wanted to point this out so that we have some accuracy historically. The problem that we have in America today and throughout the world is the lies of white supremacy. And it's white people with white skin who benefit from that. It's our responsibility to do what? To fix it. It's sick, it's a disease, and it's destroying all of us. Not just black, not just brown, not just indigenous, all of us. What can I do, Dixon, as a white person? Well, I'll tell you 4 things. Number one, learn. Learn from black folks, learn from brown folks, learn from Asian folks, learn from indigenous people, whatever you choose, but learn about race in America. You can do it from documentaries, you can do it from books, you can do it from movies, you can do it from genuine friendships with other people outside of the white race. If they want to teach you, they are not obligated to teach you, but learn. And I do encourage you to build relationships with people outside of white. Those relationships are the best way to learn. Genuine friendships, just be around those people. Learn their reality. It's that simple. Number 2. Simply acknowledge the truth. Just acknowledge the truth. It's the hardest thing for white people to do, but you have to acknowledge the truth racially, without a denial, without a but, without a deflection, without a projection, without gaslighting. Just acknowledge the fucking truth. Number 3, take action. Inaction is the problem. Take legitimate action. Hold white people accountable for our racist bullshit, whatever that may be. It may be a friend, it may be a coworker, it may be a relative, it may be a politician. Whatever it is, get organized. Whatever you have to do, hold white people accountable. But inaction is the problem. Silence is complicity. Denial is complicity. Ignoring it is complicity. Do something. Lastly, number 4, teach other white people what you've learned. Share what you've learned. Pass it, spread it around. Good luck.
Okay, so let's talk about black masters. So as difficult as it is to digest this, numerous records indicate that thousands of free black people in the South did in fact own slaves. So not only did they own slaves, but in some instances, they harshly disciplined and sold their slaves. In other instances, they treated them well and ultimately freed them. Okay, that's something good. And why they acted as they did was bound with reasons like why they became black masters. In the first place, in another research, it shows that black masters owned slaves so that they could reunite them with their families. Yeah. So please, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. I know, and I'm sure I've got a lot to learn about this, but that's all I could gather, guys. Let me know what you think about this video in the comment section below, and I'll see you in my next video.